Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope we're having a wonderful Sunday, and hopefully we're kind of getting out there and enjoying some of the nicer weather that's kind of funneling in behind this storm system. Although for some folks, we're still kind of right in the brunt of it, as we have a big area of rain and snow working on through the northeast, and that will continue to do so throughout today and overnight tonight before everyone gets in on some nicer weather going into early this coming week. Now, I'll be honest with you, all eyes are really about a week or 7 to 10 days out from now, as the models are continuing to kind of hone in on this idea of some sort of southern winter storm, particularly southeastern winter storm, and even areas that haven't really seen any snow this winter or last winter. We could definitely see some in places like the Carolinas, maybe Georgia, Virginia, and plenty of other places, including the West Coast, that is also likely to get hit pretty hard by this storm system that the models, again, are slowly latching onto. So that will definitely be a big part of this video, although we will discuss what's happening right now and kind of what's on the way for the week ahead. Now, I will ask, if you haven't already subscribed, definitely consider doing so. Like the video if you like it, and of course comment, let me know what you're seeing out there, especially you folks in the Northeast that are kind of seeing some of that wintry weather currently today. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and jump on into it, because again, there is a lot going on out there for us to discuss. Now, taking a look at satellite imagery, again, this is our storm system we've been tracking for a couple days now. This brought even severe weather yesterday. We had very impressive storms over South Carolina last night with very spring-like structure, and even had some pretty nice lightning out of it as well. And I'm sure many of you know the old wise tale, if there's lightning in the southeast in winter, within 10 days it'll snow. Well, we'll see if that happens this time. Historically speaking, the odds of it happening aren't great. I think it's about 10 to 20% of the time it actually pans out that way, but we'll see. Maybe early next week might join that 20%. Now, this storm system is slowly working on out of here. Again, working over the Ohio River right now. Eventually going to kind of turn east here and work off the eastern seaboard, and should clear out by the time we get into tomorrow and especially our Tuesday. Now, outside of that, really much of the lower 48 is in a bit of a lull right now. You'll notice much clearer skies even out west compared to the past couple of days, and into the southeast. We, again, are in a very nice kind of lull right now, but don't get too excited, because, again, that is going to change here going down the road. Now, taking a look at radar imagery, we'll start with our storm out here. Again, a big shield of precipitation here. Some of this falling as snow, some of it falling as rain. Probably rain, I would imagine, here kind of in this circled area from Philadelphia up through New York City and down into Washington and Baltimore. But we are also seeing some snow on the north side here through kind of the Pennsylvania-New York state line there, back towards Buffalo, Albany, much of western Massachusetts. Probably seeing some snow out of this right now, and also likely some snow on the backside as well. Now, taking a look at our watches, warnings, and advisories out here, and we definitely have some important ones to talk about, specifically here over the Northeast, where in your pink boxes we have winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories, and the purple boxes from Concord down through sections of these higher terrains of Massachusetts, kind of near Pittsfield and Gardner in those winter storm warnings. And even back here towards the Catskills, could see some snow out of this. We have winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings for those areas as well. And then also some of the higher terrains out here, kind of near the Pennsylvania and New York state line. Now, further to the south, we're also going to see winter weather, specifically here into the mountains of North Carolina, where we have winter storm warnings up and winter weather advisories for the higher terrains of eastern Tennessee on those northwestern facing slopes. Same story for North Carolina here, again, as we're going to get some pretty good flow on the backside of the storm system to bring some of that wintry weather. Now, flooding is also a concern. All of these little kind of light green boxes are flood advisories or flood warnings, and the kind of darker green boxes are flood watches for more rain that could still happen with the storm system. But luckily, again, we should dry out over the next couple of days, but those rivers and streams still high for a lot of folks. And as for the west, again, we're in a bit of a lull back this way, so right now, not too many watches or warnings or advisories to worry about. So definitely some good news out that way. All right, let's time out the rest of the storm system and talk about who's still got snow to come, who's still got rain to come, and who's just got kind of nicer weather on the way. And we'll look at this through this afternoon. This is about noon today, what you should be expecting. Likely, again, snow falling in those areas that we have those winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings here, into Massachusetts, into those border counties of Pennsylvania and New York, and then into southern Vermont and New Hampshire. Now, as we go into this afternoon and evening, about the time the sun is setting, it's still snowing good in the northeast, again, specifically for those areas that are under the watches and warnings, while we're still seeing just good old-fashioned rain for the I-95 corridor. Unfortunately, for you snow lovers up there, not really your storm this time around. We'll see if we can reel one in later on in this kind of pattern, but again, mainly rain for you folks. Now, also on the backside, going into overnight tonight, you'll notice that snow picking up here into the higher terrains of North Carolina and West Virginia as that northwest flow really begins to crank up. And overnight tonight, it's still snowing in the northeast. This is going into about midnight, likely still snowing in Massachusetts, New York State, Vermont, New Hampshire, southern Maine here. Maybe even some snow showers trying to work down into Connecticut. Maybe a couple flurries mix in New York City and northern New Jersey. Not out of the question here. But I think by the time we're waking up tomorrow, and especially going into tomorrow afternoon, much nicer conditions. Now, we could still see a couple snow showers left over through Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut throughout the day tomorrow, but especially by the time we get into Monday evening here, you'll notice much nicer conditions overtake the area. And then we have to watch our next storm system, which is a bit of a clipper system that is likely going to try to work on through here, starting our overnight Monday and into our Tuesday morning. And we'll talk more about that here later on in the video. Now, how much snow is left to come? Well, again, most of it is going to be here in the higher terrains of southern Vermont, southern New Hampshire, and into Massachusetts, where half a foot of snow could still fall before all is said and done here over the next 48 hours or so. And also here into the Catskills, I think could still pick up another 3 to 6 inches with isolated spots getting half a foot or more of snow before, again, all is said and done. And surrounding areas, also still some snow on the way, including places like Boston could pick up a quick inch or two. Same story down through much of Connecticut and Rhode Island, especially the northern half of those states. And then again on the New York, Pennsylvania border here, those higher terrains picking up a couple inches of snow as well. Now down through the mid-Atlantic, also snow on the way here, at least for the higher elevations. West Virginia, higher peaks here could pick up a quick couple of inches, but I think really the highest totals down here into North Carolina, specifically into the southern apps here, kind of into the Smokies, could see isolated peaks getting up near half a foot of snow before all is said and done from this northwest flow snow, kind of on the backside as the storm pulls away and that cold air funnels in. All right, temperatures, let's talk about that here. This afternoon, it's going to be definitely a lot cooler than what we saw kind of the past couple of days. Obviously, this past Friday, we had temperatures getting up into the 80s into the mid-Atlantic. Not quite the same today. Now, you'll notice the front here is still slowly working on through sections of the southeast. So we will have a pretty warm afternoon for eastern North Carolina and eastern South Carolina, where we'll get up into the 60s. But for most other folks, getting into about noon, 1, 2, and 3 o'clock this afternoon, it's a pretty average January day. Temperatures at or near freezing into much of the northeast, which is why we still have some of that snow falling there. And temperatures only in the 40s or 50s this afternoon for much of the mid-south, again, as that colder air has funneled in behind that storm system from yesterday. And again, temperatures kind of at or around freezing through much of the Midwest this afternoon. Now going into overnight tonight, and by the time we're waking up tomorrow morning, it'll definitely be a chilly night. Not cold by any means, but most of us getting at or near freezing here, especially up in the northeast, likely most of us getting below freezing tonight. Same story for the Midwest, closer to 35 degrees for other folks here kind of into the mid-south and into the deep south, with 40s south of there into the Florida Panhandle and into the Florida Peninsula. Now, Monday afternoon, definitely a cooler day than today, not by much, but, cooler for most folks here. Highs only getting into the 50-degree range into the Carolinas, 40s and 30s, really elsewhere into the south and then into the Ohio River Valley, and a lot of us up in the northeast not really getting above freezing thanks to that snowpack from today's storm. And eventually waking up on Tuesday, another cold evening, or cold morning, I should say, Tuesday morning here, with temperatures at or near freezing once again for most folks here in the east. Now let's take a look out west. Again, a bit of a lull, I think, through the next couple of days here, and this is this afternoon. Definitely still some scattered showers up through Washington and Oregon, but this kind of atmospheric river flow that we've had over the past week or so is finally starting to close off a little bit, and really the only rain we'll see is going to clip kind of the extreme north western sections of Washington state there. You'll notice definitely some rain there overnight tonight, but by the time we're waking up for our Monday, again, most of that rain staying offshore here, pretty well offshore of the Pacific Northwest even, and we've got pretty, nice clear weather into Monday afternoon. You'll notice still all clear. Overnight Monday, still looking pretty clear before eventually, I think, waking up Tuesday, a little bit of lighter precipitation could try to work on into the Pacific Northwest again, but really still much nicer than what we saw over the past week or so. Now, temperatures out here this afternoon, again, it is definitely going to get warm, and you'll notice kind of getting up well into the 60s and 70s into the desert southwest, so definitely a nice afternoon. Obviously cooler temperatures in the higher terrains out here, but again, relatively a pretty average January day for most folks. Overnight tonight, by the time we're waking up tomorrow, again, obviously pretty cold into the higher terrains with warmer temperatures into the lower terrain. So again, this is tomorrow morning waking up in this part of the country, and then into our Monday afternoon. Once again, we warm up nicely, likely even a little bit warmer than what we're going to see today through much of the west before again kind of your normal diurnal cycles here, and once again a pretty chilly Tuesday morning. So nothing out of the ordinary for this time of year in this part of the country. So again, kind of a lull and kind of the calm before the storm, if you will. Now, speaking of the storm, let's kind of talk about it a little bit. We're going to very quickly talk about something that isn't quite the storm itself, but related to it. So we're going to start by looking at the continental view here of our 500 millibar height anomalies. And I think the GFS has done a pretty good job here in the medium to long range recently, at least sniffing out these patterns. So let's talk about the morning run from our GFS ensembles. Now, this is Monday afternoon. You'll notice this kind of big area off the coast of the east. That's that storm system that's currently working on through. Obviously, by the time we hit Monday afternoon, pretty far offshore, and things should begin to calm down. Now, going later on into this week, here's our next storm that we need to talk about a little bit. Look at this next area of blue kind of diving south into the country. That's that Clipper system that I was showing you a little bit earlier, and we're very quickly going to touch on that. Before then, eventually we talk about the next big time storm. So let's go ahead and talk about it a little bit here, and we'll see if our NAM model has gone quite far enough out yet. It looks like maybe a little bit. So here we go. Latest forecast here going into Monday afternoon. Again, still pretty calm for most folks, and I'll move myself out of the way so you can see it even better here. Again, calm for most folks, but it's going into overnight Monday and into Tuesday. This Clipper system kind of comes diving down out of Canada, and we've got a pretty good area of snow breaking out here up through much of Michigan, Wisconsin, and eventually kind of early into the morning hours of Tuesday, that shield of snow getting down into Ohio and into much of Indiana. Now, this model is probably overdoing the precipitation a little bit, so bring down exactly how widespread this is. This will probably be more of a scattered snow shower event than maybe a big old shield of snow. But either way, you'll notice going into Tuesday afternoon here, we've got a pretty defined system here bringing in enough precipitation, to cause some wintry weather. I'm going to have to quickly change back to the overnight model run just because it actually goes far enough out here. But you'll notice, again, going later on into Tuesday evening here and into Wednesday morning, this big kind of Clipper system slowly working into the Appalachia chain, and I think this is where we could see the real winners in terms of snowfall here. This is overnight Tuesday into the very early morning hours of Wednesday. Again, we've got scattered snow showers through the Ohio River Valley and into the Appalachia chain, especially into West Virginia, North Carolina, and Virginia. Seeing some of that snow here fly. Now going into Wednesday morning here and into Wednesday afternoon, again, I think scattered snow showers from North Carolina up into the mountains of West Virginia, Virginia. Can't even rule out a couple of these snow showers make it over the mountains. Could see some light snowfall into the D.C. area and other parts of Virginia. Definitely a possibility Wednesday afternoon, but don't count on it. And then that kind of continues later into Wednesday before eventually the storm system dies down a little bit and works offshore here Wednesday afternoon and into Thursday. So not a big time event here, more of a kind of light snow event, but enough that it is worth mentioning. And totals here from our latest European ensemble members, kind of, I think, about an inch for much of Michigan and into sections of eastern Indiana and western Ohio here. So again, not a lot, but an inch, maybe a couple places getting 1 to 2 inches. So definitely worth mentioning here and could cause some isolated travel impacts. Now, again, the real winners I think will be into the Appalachia chain, once again from North Carolina up through the Virginias, maybe a couple of inches here, 1 to 3 inches, isolated spots seeing 3 to 5 into those higher peaks. Again, kind of in the circled area, and as I will mention once more, a couple snowflakes could make it over the mountain chain, maybe into the Danville area up through DC and into Baltimore. Maybe some flurries fly during the afternoon on Wednesday, maybe even a dusting on the grassy surfaces or those elevated surfaces. Not out of the question, but again, more of a novelty event than anything else. All right, now let's talk about the storm system I'm sure many of you are here for. Going about a week or so out from now, we need to watch the pattern. Very big time here. We've been talking about it for a while. I've said things cannot stay quiet forever. I also mentioned last week when we had those 70-degree temperatures, what goes up must come down. And that's looking like much more of a possibility here going again into early next week, not as in tomorrow next week, but the week after. So there's a lot of time here, a lot of details need to be ironed out, but the models have been consistent, and they are staying consistent, and in fact getting a little bit better in terms of the look. So let's go ahead and start discussing it here. Now this is Wednesday afternoon here, to be exactly Wednesday afternoon. I'll move this ahead a little bit more. And here we go. This is that Clipper system I just talked about, now moving offshore of the southeast, again funneling in a little bit of cooler air as well as that mountain snow. Now later on in the week, this is whenever things get very interesting. This is about Thursday or Friday of this week coming up, and you'll notice we've got a big time trough out west, likely a very big time storm system as well. So I was talking about the lull we're in out west. Don't get too excited, because later this week, we're going to get right back to very active pattern where just about everyone out west is going to have big time snow and or rain depending on elevation. And at the same time, notice we've got a kind of piece of energy breaking down out of Greenland and out of the Arctic here, kind of diving southward. And let me draw that in a color you might be able to see a little bit better here in the black. This is a shot of cold air that is kind of trying to work on into the northeastern half of the country. Now, in meteorology, a lot of times we call this a 50-50 low. Just due to kind of its placement on the map. The name doesn't matter, but just know this is a very important piece in getting snow into the southeastern part of the country, specifically the Carolinas, Virginia, Georgia. This 50-50 low is very important for cold air damming, which I'm sure you hear of a lot. And as we move this further ahead into the coming weekend, this is Saturday, the 3rd of February. Look at this. This 50-50 low, big time on the map, very easily shown on the ensembles. And at the same time, our storm system out west now diving south and tracking right along the Gulf Coast. Now this is basically, I don't want to say as good as it gets, but this is a very favorable pattern for Carolina snowfall. And as we move this further ahead into time, into Sunday afternoon, the 4th, you'll notice we've got a very impressive trough here of some cold air, as well as likely some divergence leading to low pressure forming at the surface here. That combined with this 50 low, likely funneling in some colder air. This is a perfect, let me rephrase that, maybe not perfect, but this is a great recipe for Carolina snowfall. And that works on through going into the 5th of February and eventually kind of getting out of here by the time we get into the 6th and the 7th. And then it looks like maybe a ridge tries to build back in. But that time frame from the 4th to the 6th is looking very good right now in our models. So what exactly does this look like? I'll show you our operational runs, the latest runs we have, and then I'll show you the ensembles, which are very important when discussing snowfall this far out. So whenever I show you this operational run, I don't want you to get too terribly excited. Just kind of, take this with a grain of salt because, again, these things are going to change. Now we'll start Wednesday afternoon. Here we go. Here's that big storm out west now kind of lashing the coastline here, and at the same time our Clipper system now moving offshore. So this is kind of when the pattern sets up. Our storm now working into the United States. This is Wednesday afternoon. This is also whenever we'll be able to collect more data on the storm as well as it's crossing those weather stations and those weather balloon launching sites, as well as any aircraft that is flying on through it. Now here we go, going into Thursday morning and Thursday afternoon, the stage continues to set itself, that storm system continuing to dive south through the west coast, likely bringing big time mountain snow through the Sierra Nevadas, potentially feet of snow. Not out of the question, maybe even a flooding threat towards the LA area. Definitely need to watch that. And at the same time, look up here to the north. Look at these blue isobars with this kind of 50-50 low slowly diving south out of Canada. And I know I just kind of drew a mess on the map, but nonetheless, just know this is cold air diving southward, and this is a storm diving towards the cold air. So obviously, we always talk about we need cold air and precipitation to link up. Well, here they go. They get close to it here. And we're going now into Friday afternoon. Cold air continuing to sink south. Storm out west continuing to crank up, bringing all sorts of problems from mountain snow to valley rain. And eventually, this is where they kind of meet a little bit here. Going into our Saturday afternoon, this is the 3rd of February. Again, we've got this big air mass of cold air thanks to that 50-50 low. And at the same time, this kind of trough down into the central part of the country and all that divergence ahead, causing that lifting at the surface for multiple reasons. We're getting lifting from the trough. We're also getting lifting from this cold front itself kind of working on through. And because of that, we've got snow breaking out. There's sections of North Carolina here, and eventually even down into South Carolina on the latest GFS run, seeing some snow break out here. We've got snow breaking out back towards Texas with the storm system itself. And eventually, these two really hook up a little bit going into that Sunday. And you'll notice we've got big time storm system crossing the Gulf here and a very cold air mass just to the north. Now, this operational run doesn't show any kind of big time snow totals, but it shows a pattern that you really want to see about a week or so out. You don't want to see perfect model runs at this point. What you want to see is that storm system and that cold air right next to each other and getting very close to interacting, and that's exactly what we're seeing on our latest GFS, again through about February 4th through the 6th. Now, the European model, also very important to look at here. Let's start this at the same time frame. Again, Wednesday afternoon, Clipper system moving down off the east coast, and the big time storm system that is kind of the start to this whole thing moving into the west coast. Now, same story as the GFS, big time mountain snow out west, valley rain, potentially flooding, and feet of snow kind of being the big story out there. And as we go into the weekend, we've got the same general idea. Here's that cold air, a little bit displaced further to the east and not quite as strong maybe of a cold air mass. But nonetheless, same story. We've got cold air trying to funnel into the southeast, and we've got our big time storm system here also kind of working towards that cold air mass. Now, as I kind of move this further ahead into time on the European, you'll notice these two don't quite link up perfectly, but it's the same general idea. We've got a storm right where you want it, and we've got the cold air right there basically where you want it as well, very close to each other, just need them to link up. And if we look at our ensembles, the ensembles say we really think they're going to link up. The chances of at least an inch of snow falling here from our latest GFS ensemble members, obviously going into later this coming week out west, big time chances of snowfall with all of that precipitation moving into those higher terrains. And then eventually those chances break out even into the southern plains. You'll notice snow chances breaking out into Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and eventually here into the Carolinas. And look at this signal. This is February 5th, the morning of, and we've got chances on the GFS ensembles getting past 40% here into the Carolinas outside of the mountains. Now to see that this far out, again, about 8 to 9 days here is very impressive. So this is something we're going to want to watch. Here again into the southeastern part of the country, and it's not just the Carolinas. This is also showing up here back towards Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Arkansas, even up into Virginia. So again, a very strong signal here showing up, and then eventually that kind of works out getting into the 7th or so of February. European model, same general idea. Big snow chances start out west. Eventually they work east and into the Carolinas. Once again, this signal showing up about the 5th to 6th of February. A little bit lower here on the European ensembles, but nonetheless, the exact same area showing up with snowfall chances here going into kind of the last couple of days of the first week of February, or about 7 to 10 days from now. So again, these are going to be a lot of details we need to iron out over the next couple of days. I foresee a very active pattern here and probably some long videos also in the future, maybe even a couple live streams should this general idea hang on. Now, I'm a big-time snow lover, so my fingers are crossed. I'm hoping for some snow here in Charlotte. I'm sure many of you in the Carolinas also are. I've gotten plenty of comments letting me know that we've got a lot of snow lovers in this part of the country. So any kind of snow dance you have or anything of the sort, definitely consider doing it over the next couple of days and really through this week. But I'll definitely make sure to keep you updated on the pattern as we get a little bit closer. And now with that said, hope you have a great rest of your Sunday, and I'll see you all tomorrow.